Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Rumensin. This is Chris. So as we get going this morning and feeding the calves, I thought I'd do a little something different. I had somebody ask the question a couple weeks ago after one of my videos to go into a little bit more detail on like our grain ration, our feed ration, and then I figured I would talk also a little bit more about like the total feeds that our calves especially get as we're growing them out and trying to develop them. We'll talk about like what they all have available to them, like what kind of hay we have, what kind of tubs we got, all that kind of stuff. So let's start up in the barn. I'm starting up here, shed some light on the situation. Turn the light on, that doesn't do anything. So we take cob corn, we take this stuff, and we grind this up with our grinder. That guy, our New Holland 353 grinder. And the reason we like grinding cob corn simply is because then we have the flexibility to make our own feed mix. But we need to bring up the nutritional value of that mix, and that's what the additives are for that we get from the mill. And I've shown this in a video before, you know, what's all in our mix. So we've got, you know, the main component of our mix is a soybean meal to help bring up our nutritional value. Then we also have the Zimpro Avela dairy. Now we have a lot of dairies in our area. That's why they use dairy versus the Avela 4, which some people are probably maybe a little bit more familiar with. But all that is a little boost of specific, you know, zinc, magnesium, trace mineral type things that isn't in normal minerals. The big one that we added a few years ago is the Rumensin. And I don't know if that's focusing in or not. The Rumensin. So what Rumensin is essentially it's a feed additive that is for feed efficiency. There are other, and I think they fall into the category of an ionophore, which is just a feed efficiency additive. A lot of other ones are, so some of them have like a slight antibiotic additive to them, like the Bovitax or a couple other ones I know aren't specifically, but those, I think now with the new regulations a few years ago, you actually need a vet prescription to get those done. So Rumensin is not considered an antibiotic, or it's not considered a feed that needs to be regulated by your vet. But what Rumensin does is it helps with gut health, rumen health, and digestibility, aiding to feed efficiency. It also it kills like coccidiosis eggs. So I think in our calves especially, that helps with their overall health as we're weaning them and do, you know, their stress and things like that. And prior to this morning, when I got up this morning, I was like, okay, I want to be able to talk smart about what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to review a few things. Like I know what all this stuff does, but I just want to, you know, some of those more specific stuffs. And as I'm reading through and reviewing the Rumensin stuff, I'm like, why are we not trying to feed this to our cows for the feed efficiencies over the winter, and plus shedding the coccidiosis eggs so the calves don't get it, was one specific line in there. So that's something I might look into a little bit more. But that is why we feed it to our calves. The feed efficiency is a big one. It I think it gives like a 0.1, it's like an eighth of a pound or a little less. Yeah, I think it's like an eighth of a pound increase of feed efficiency. So over time, that does definitely add up. You know, you feed that for a couple of months, you know, that's definitely going to add up. The other benefit to the Rumensin, since it's approved for developing heifers and reproductive heifers, not just feedlot animals, they'll start cycling at a slightly younger age, which for us, and I would think for anybody else, that doesn't necessarily mean you want to start breeding them early. You know, instead of, you know, breeding a heifer at, say, 12 months, you can now breed her at 10 months. You know, that's not the goal. The goal is when you're getting them to cycle at 10 months, that you can breed them at 12 or 14 months and know that they are cycling. because later on in the spring we'll set them up to synchronize their feed cycles so we can AI them, get them in, tighten up that breeding window for those heifers when we do AI. What the Rumensin has done is we have seen increased cycling at a slightly younger age, so that by the time we get to late April, early May, we know that all of our heifers are cycling, so that when we start doing cedars and the shots to set them up for that stuff, we know that they are going to cycle, that the shots are going to work. And that's really all it is for us, and what I personally think it should be. It's not to start breeding them early. I would think that'd be a dumb idea. So that's kind of the basics on Rumensin and why we use it. So the other stuff in there obviously is molasses. That's just, hey, let's get them to the bunk a little faster. There's a yeast culture in there. That's another feed efficiency thing. Helps another rumen health. Bentonite's really just like a moisture binding agent that just helps reduce the building of mold, or the chance that mold is going to happen. All right, so we're going to go out and look at the tub that's out here by the calves. These guys probably need some bedding, but it's supposed to be a pretty nice day today, and it's going to dry out some more. And of course, this one's sitting in just the right spot. So this is a Purina Rangeland 30% tub. This is a little bit lower moisture, plus there's no salt in that tub. You get some of those other tubs, the cheaper tubs, they have salt in them, and I don't want the calves to go to the molasses for the salt. I want them to go for the molasses, or for the actual energy. But I've also gotten the Tractor Supply tubs, and they serve their purpose. But I think bang for the buck so far, the Rangelands have been pretty decent from our feed mill. Last year we also tried the Rangeland high fats late in the season, and I think our bulls are going to get the high fats, the high fat tubs probably in like March. Start putting a little extra condition on them, and we'll just see how that goes. But we also possibly will be giving the heifers the high fat tub like right about a month before breeding season, before we AI them, to get them in a little bit of that better shape, set up their bodies just right so that they're ready to breed. But I don't want to do it too early because I don't want them fat. I want them growing, I want them looking good, but I don't want them to be all ballooned out and fat. The other reason I want a lick tub is obviously I want that alternate source of protein and energy. But I like the idea of the lick tub from an increased saliva perspective, because the saliva also too aids in gut health and breaking down feed and feed efficiencies. It's not and it helps balance out the pH in the gut as well. So that is something else that we look at, and it's great for when we wean, because it gives those animals that are a little bit shy to the bunk, it gives them a great source of feed, not at the bunk. All right, so let's look at what hay they have. Looking at the feeders, growing calves get second crop hay for us, and our hay is mostly grasses. So it's a combination of orchard grass, ryegrass, bluegrass, all that kind of stuff. So it's probably, like percentage wise, tonnage, it's probably 80% grass, and then you'll maybe get like a 20% has clover, maybe a little bit of alfalfa, definitely clover. But these guys will have free choice hay, free choice second crop hay, as long as they're in their growing stage. As far as heifers go, they will have it until they're bred and out in pasture. Bulls will have it as long as they're here. Right, buddy? Huh? Yeah, you guys don't know yet. You guys, yeah. they're still getting used to their new area, but these guys are pretty chill. I want a balance in their diet. We don't want them to be on straight corn, regardless of how balanced it is. You know, some people do like a complete grain ration that is like a total feed. Corn for growth and energy is great, but I want them to be on the other stuff. I mean, these guys are healthy, and their condition and performance will speak for themselves. Are we pumping out 5-pound daily gains? Absolutely not. But I think once we come springtime, these guys will be doing pretty decent. We want our bulls to be at, like, if they can be at 1,200 pounds by the end of May, that would be awesome. And then our heifers, if we can get them into that like 800 plus, we're doing all right. The other thing that you do also try to observe, and these guys do need some bedding, and that'll probably happen this afternoon. But the best way you watch them is, honestly, you watch their poop. Okay? Now these guys are still forming fairly solid piles. What you don't want is, and this is going to be gross, you don't want it coming out like a milkshake. You also don't want it so that they're forming super, super hard piles, because then that means that they have too much fiber, not enough energy, not enough protein in that diet to make it a little looser. You want it in a nice consistency. It's a gross way to look at it, but it's honestly it's a very good way to understand whether or not your animals are in good health. Are they digesting things properly, or are they just basically crapping it out the rear end and wasting it? And our animals, especially these calves, with the amount that we give them, they're still forming. They're still looking good. Let's put it that way. I can keep going down a rabbit hole that's not going to get any more pleasant. So they look good, and honestly, during the summer, it's more noticeable when you put them on fresh grass. How much protein is out there, energy is out there, or which animals are handling that new grass or that fresh grass or that type of grass better than others, by honestly looking at their manure. So that's kind of just not a brief description, but it's hopefully a little bit more detail on our feed and how we feed our calves. Cows, it's grass hay. That's what they get. They'll obviously get a corn stalk bale that they can nibble on and stuff like that, but that's more for bedding. They get grass. I'd like to get into giving them a little bit of a supplement in the wintertime. If we had a bulk cake supplier or range cube supplier, however you prefer to call it, I definitely would look into that. Tubs for cows do get a little expensive, so that's why I would look kind of at a range cube cake type of supplement. Would be really nice, but we just don't have one of those manufacturers that are really close. So it is what it is, but that's something I'd like to look into in the future, near future. That's just a little update on how we feed our calves, how we grow out our calves, and always trying new things, tweaking stuff, trying to do it within reason, within budget. Like I said, we want to try those high fat tubs a little bit more, especially for the bulls. Maybe that means we have to tone down the ground feed a little bit, but again, you watch the manure. The manure will tell a lot of stuff, which is funny, but it works. It's true. So I'll continue to give you updates on that kind of stuff in future videos, and we'll see how these guys look in a few months. So on with the rest of the day.